ExamPrep.School. Arizona Examination for Crop Insurance Producer Test. There are 5 practice exams in this series. This video covers Practice Exam 1. The first 20 questions are free. In this video, we will be covering the following major categories for Practice Exam 1. Crop hail insurance, federal multi-peril crop insurance programs, general insurance, insurance regulation. Let's walk through the format. I'll read each question and its choices. Let's get started. Question 1. According to Arizona Revised Statute Section 20-285, the State Director of Insurance may issue a provisional insurance producer license for a maximum period not to exceed what duration? A. 30 days. B. 60 days. C. 90 days. D. 120 days. A countdown circle appears in the top right. Once it completes, the answer is revealed. You can pause at any time if you'd like longer to think. If you'd like additional practice covering more topics, see the description for our book. The correct answer is C. This option is correct because ARS Section 20-285 authorizes the director to issue provisional producer licenses for up to 90 days while applicants complete requirements. Reason A is not correct. 30 days is incorrect because the statute specifies a longer maximum provisional period. Reason B is not correct. 60 days is incorrect because the maximum provisional period allowed exceeds this duration. Reason D is not correct. 120 days is incorrect because the statute caps provisional licenses at a shorter period. Question 2. Under Arizona law, which statement accurately describes the fingerprint requirement for an initial insurance producer license application? A. Applicants must submit fingerprint captures through a Department of Public Safety authorized channel and pay the required fees. B. Only applicants with prior criminal convictions must submit fingerprint cards using an ink method. C. Local law enforcement inked fingerprints are the sole acceptable submission for all applicants. D. Fingerprinting is waived if residence in Arizona exceeds 5 years. The correct answer is A. This is correct because Arizona requires all initial license applicants to undergo fingerprint-based state and federal background checks via DPS-authorized vendors with applicable fees. Reason B is not correct. The requirement is not limited to applicants with prior convictions. All initial applicants must submit fingerprints. Reason C is not correct. Modern electronic capture via DPS-approved vendors is acceptable in addition to ink cards, so this statement is too restrictive. Reason D is not correct. Residency duration does not waive fingerprinting. It is mandatory for all initial applicants. Question 3. Derek Sanchez, a 22-year-old resident of Arizona, submitted an application to the Department of Insurance for a resident crop insurance producer license. He has completed the fingerprint-based background check and paid all required application fees, but has not yet satisfied one key initial requirement. Which requirement must he still fulfill to obtain the license? A. Complete the state's continuing education hours. B. Obtain and maintain errors and omissions coverage. C. Pass the Arizona Crop Insurance Producer Licensing Examination. D. Prove appointment by an admitted insurer. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is that passing the licensing examination is a mandatory initial eligibility criterion under Arizona law for resident crop insurance producers, whereas the other items relate to post-licensure renewal or appointment requirements. Reason A is not correct. Continuing education must be completed before license renewal, not for initial issuance. Reason B is not correct. Errors and omissions coverage may be required by some insurers, but is not a state-mandated prerequisite for initial licensure. Reason D is not correct. Appointment by an insurer is needed to transact business, but not to secure the state license itself. Question 4. Under Arizona Revised Statutes, Section 20-102, Which of the following actions is considered transacting insurance in the Arizona crop insurance market? A. Typing up a crop insurance policy form per underwriter instruction. B. Compiling internal loss statistics for rate analysis. C. Accessing climatological records to model potential yield. D. Collecting premium payments from a producer on behalf of the insurer. The correct answer is D. Collecting premium payments from a producer on behalf of the insurer is explicitly included in the statutory definition of transacting insurance under Arizona law. Reason A is not correct. Clerical preparation of policy forms without actively soliciting or selling coverage does not meet the statutory definition of transacting insurance. Reason B is not correct. Internal compilation of loss statistics for rate making is an underwriting support function and not defined as transacting insurance. Reason C is not correct. Technical analysis of weather or yield data is not an activity that requires an insurance license under the transacting insurance definition. Question 5. Pursuant to Arizona revised statutes, Title 20, which of the following best exemplifies negotiation of a crop insurance policy under Arizona law? A. Calculating a premium based on the insured's average historical yield. B. Binding coverage by issuing a policy after the acceptance of the application. C. Delivering finalized policy documents to a producer. D. Proposing alternative deductible levels to a farmer during a policy discussions. The correct answer is D. Negotiation involves proposing or discussing specific policy terms with the insured, which matches the action of offering alternative deductible levels. Reason A is not correct. Calculating a premium based on yield data is an underwriting function rather than negotiation of coverage terms. Reason B is not correct. Issuing a policy after application acceptance is part of policy issuance, not the negotiation process. Reason C is not correct. Delivering policy documents occurs after terms are settled and does not constitute negotiation. Question 6. Under Arizona revised statutes governing crop insurance, which of the following is an example of misrepresentation or false advertising by a producer? A. Advertising director-approved premium rates in promotional brochures without additional commentary. B. Stating that a crop hail policy covers a named peril, such as windstorm, that is explicitly excluded in the policy. C. Providing an applicant with an accurate summary of policy terms and exclusions before enrollment. D. Distributing the complete policy form, including all endorsements, to a prospective insured. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is an example of falsely stating that a crop hail policy covers excluded perils, which violates Arizona's prohibition on misrepresentation and false advertising. Reason A is not correct. Promoting approved premium rates without additional commentary is permitted under Arizona regulations. Reason C is not correct. Providing an accurate summary of policy terms is proper practice and not misleading. Reason D is not correct. Distributing the full policy form is compliant and does not mislead consumers. Question 7. Within the crop insurance context, the term risk most accurately refers to which of the following? A. The degree of uncertainty manifested by the probability of a covered peril causing a financial loss. B. The total indemnity payable by the insurer in the event of a loss. C. The amount an insured must pay as premium for coverage. D. The quantifiable value of harvested crops at expected yield. The correct answer is A. The correct answer defines risk as the uncertainty about the likelihood that a covered peril will cause a financial loss, which aligns with insurance terminology. The other options describe indemnity amounts, premiums, and crop values rather than the inherent uncertainty of loss. Reason B is not correct. This describes the indemnity amount rather than the uncertainty of loss. Reason C is not correct. This refers to premium payment, not the uncertainty of loss occurrence. Reason D is not correct. This refers to crop value metrics instead of uncertainty of loss. Question 8. A greenhouse operator inspects multiple risk factors: a failed ventilation fan causing sustained high humidity, seasonal drought forecasts, frequent hailstorms, and potential river flooding. Which of these qualifies as a hazard under crop insurance terms? A. High humidity from the malfunctioning ventilation fan. B. Seasonal drought predicted by local forecasts. C. Frequent regional hailstorms. D. Potential flooding from nearby river overflow. The correct answer is A. High humidity from the failed fan represents a hazard because it is a condition that increases the likelihood or severity of crop loss, whereas drought, hail, and flooding are perils, which are the actual causes of loss events. Reason B is not correct. Seasonal drought is a peril, meaning an actual cause of loss, not a condition that heightens risk. Reason C is not correct. Hailstorms are perils because they directly cause damage rather than being risk-enhancing conditions. Reason D is not correct. River flooding is a peril, representing an event that causes loss rather than a risk-increasing condition. Question 9. Which of the following is a distinguishing characteristic of stock property and casualty insurers? A. They are owned by policyholders who share in profits through policy dividends. B. They raise capital by issuing shares and pay dividends to shareholders based on company earnings. C. They must distribute surplus to policyholder members under statutory mandates. D. They are prohibited from paying dividends on surplus and must reinvest all profits into reserves. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is that stock insurers issue shares and pay dividends to shareholders based on earnings, distinguishing them from mutual insurers owned by policyholders. Reason A is not correct. This describes mutual insurers, which are owned by policyholders rather than outside shareholders. Reason C is not correct. There is no statutory requirement obligating stock insurers to distribute surplus to policyholders. Reason D is not correct. Stock insurers are allowed to pay dividends and are not required to reinvest all profits into reserves. Question 10. Which of the following accurately characterizes a mutual insurance company? A. It issues stock to shareholders who expect dividends. B. It is owned by its policyholders who may receive dividends from surplus. C. It primarily relies on equity markets to raise capital for underwriting. D. It is required to distribute underwriting profits exclusively to external investors. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is that mutual insurers are owned by policyholders, and surplus profits may be returned to them as dividends rather than to outside shareholders. Reason A is not correct. Mutual insurers do not issue stock to outside shareholders. Reason C is not correct. Mutual insurers rely on retained earnings and surplus rather than public equity markets for capital. Reason D is not correct. Mutual insurers distribute profits to policyholders, not external investors. Question 11. Under a typical producer appointment agreement, which of the following is not express authority granted to a licensed crop insurance producer? A. Solicit applications and deliver necessary forms to applicants. B. Collect initial premium payments and remit to the insurer according to prescribed schedules. C. Countersign endorsements prepared by the insurer to effect policy changes. D. Alter policy forms to add coverage options not offered by the insurer. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is the alteration of policy forms to add coverage not offered by the insurer because express authority only includes tasks specifically listed by the insurer, such as soliciting applications, collecting premiums, and countersigning insurer-prepared documents. Any change to form content goes beyond the limited scope of express authority. Reason A is not correct. Soliciting applications and delivering forms is a clearly specified duty granted as express authority in appointment agreements. Reason B is not correct. Collecting and remitting initial premiums is explicitly authorized when listed in the appointment agreement. Reason C is not correct. Countersigning insurer-prepared endorsements is a standard express task, reflecting the insurer's direct delegation. Question 12. A crop insurance producer in Arizona has historically adjusted coverage levels for a farmer without seeking explicit insurer approval. Now, when the producer sends email instructions to change the policy and the farmer relies on them, the insurer later denies the changes. Under Arizona law, which principle supports the farmer's argument that the producer could authorize policy modifications? A. Implied authority arising from the producer's routine business practices. B. Apparent authority based on the producer's representations to the farmer. C. Apparent authority created by the farmer's reliance on the insurer's conduct. D. Express authority granted by the insurer in the agency agreement. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is that implied authority is created by conduct and business practices that are reasonably necessary to carry out the agency relationship. So the producer's consistent adjustments without objection establish authority to modify the policy. Reason B is not correct. The apparent authority relies on the insurer's representations, not the agent's own conduct and routine practices. Reason C is not correct. Apparent authority focuses on third-party belief in the insurer's conduct, rather than internal agent conduct to perform assigned duties. Reason D is not correct. Express authority is explicitly stated in the agency agreement, not implied by past conduct and business routines. Question 13. Under Arizona crop hail insurance regulations, which of the following must an individual farmer demonstrate to be eligible for coverage? A. Possession of an insurable interest in the insured standing crop. B. Proof of residency in the same county as the insured land. C. Cultivation of at least 20 contiguous acres per insured crop. D. Registration with the Arizona Department of Agriculture as a commercial grower. The correct answer is A. The policy requires that an individual have an insurable interest in the standing crop to be eligible for coverage under Arizona crop hail regulations. Reason B is not correct. Residency in the same county is not a requirement for eligibility under crop hail rules. Reason C is not correct. There is no minimum acreage requirement to qualify for crop hail coverage. Reason D is not correct. Commercial grower registration is not mandated for individual eligibility under these regulations. Question 14. Which of the following documents must a corporate farm entity submit to verify its legal existence when applying for crop hail insurance in Arizona? A. Certified copy of the corporation's articles of incorporation. B. Partnership agreement executed by the managing partner. C. Certificate of organization for a limited liability company. D. Official record of county land use permits. The correct answer is A. A certified copy of the Articles of Incorporation is required to establish the corporate entity's legal existence for coverage eligibility. Reason B is not correct. A partnership agreement is irrelevant to the legal existence of a corporation. Reason C is not correct. A certificate of organization applies to LLCs, not to corporate entities. Reason D is not correct. County land use permits are not used to verify a corporation's legal status. Question 15. A farmer owns 60 acres of barley and plants an additional 40 acres under a handshake lease with no written agreement. When applying for a standard crop hail policy, what acreage can be insured based on insurable interest requirements? A. No acreage can be insured. B. Only the 40 leased acres. C. All 100 acres can be insured. D. Only the 60 owned acres. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is only the 60 owned acres because a written lease must exist to establish insurable interest in leased land under the policy. An unwritten agreement does not satisfy that requirement. Reason A is not correct. Insurable interest does exist for the owned acreage, so it is incorrect to deny coverage entirely. Reason B is not correct. Equitable interest from an unwritten lease does not meet the policy's requirement for insurable interest. Reason C is not correct. The handshake lease fails to establish the legal interest needed to insure the leased acreage. Question 16. A producer operates adjacent fields of alfalfa, sugar peas, a walnut orchard, and mung beans. Under a standard crop hail policy, which field is not eligible for coverage? A. Alfalfa. B. Sugar peas. C. Walnut orchard. D. Mung beans. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is walnut orchard because standard crop hail policies cover annual row and forage crops. Tree fruit and nut orchards require a separate tree hail endorsement. Reason A is not correct. Alfalfa is an annual forage crop covered under the standard policy. Reason B is not correct. Sugar peas are an eligible annual legume under standard crop hail coverage. Reason D is not correct. Mung beans are an eligible annual legume under the standard crop hail policy. Question 17. According to a standard crop hail insurance policy, which peril is covered under the policy without the need for an additional endorsement? A. Hail. B. Insect infestation. C. Fire. D. Windstorm. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is hail, because a standard crop hail policy provides coverage only for damage caused by hail. Other perils require separate endorsements. Reason B is not correct. Insect infestation is excluded and would require a separate insecticide endorsement. Reason C is not correct. Fire coverage is provided only when fire results directly from a covered hail loss, not as standalone coverage. Reason D is not correct. Windstorm is not covered under a standard crop hail policy and must be added via an additional endorsement. Question 18. Under a standard crop hail insurance policy, how is hail defined in the policy provisions? A. Solid precipitation composed of spherical or irregularly shaped ice particles of any size. B. Frozen water particles formed by crystalline condensation of supercooled water droplets. C. Frozen precipitation in the form of snowflakes or ice pellets less than 1/4 inch in diameter. D. Any form of frozen precipitation including sleet, freezing rain, and snow. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is the crystalline condensation definition, as the policy specifies hail as ice particles formed by the crystallization of supercooled water droplets in cloud layers. Reason A is not correct. That option is overly broad and does not reference the crystallization process specified in the policy. Reason C is not correct. Snowflakes and small pellets under 1/4 inch are excluded. Hail must result from supercooled water droplets, not snow. Reason D is not correct. Sleet, freezing rain, and snow are specifically excluded from the definition of hail. Question 19. Under a standard crop hail policy, coverage for fire following hail applies only when which of the following conditions is met? A. The fire is caused by a lightning strike during a hailstorm. B. A payment has already been made for wind damage to the same crop. C. The fire occurs within 24 hours after a hail event. D. Fire damage occurs directly as a consequence of hail impact. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is that fire coverage applies only when the fire damage results directly from hail impact, as specified in the policy's fire following hail provision. Reason A is not correct. Lightning-caused fires are excluded unless they directly result from a covered hail loss. Reason B is not correct. Prior wind damage payments do not trigger fire coverage under a hail policy. Reason C is not correct. There is no 24-hour time limitation. The key requirement is direct causation by hail impact. Question 20. A barley producer in Arizona insures his crop under the basic crop hail form, CPH0002, and opts not to purchase the optional fire and lightning endorsement. Lightning strikes a nearby transmission pole, igniting brush that scorches the barley. Under this form, how will the insurer respond to the loss? A. Treat the scorch loss as a covered fire peril under the crop hail policy. B. Cover the loss only if an endorsement for fire and lightning had been purchased. C. Deny coverage because only hail is insured under the basic form. D. Apply a coinsurance penalty since fire damage is partially covered. The correct answer is C. The basic crop hail form, CPH0. 002 ensures only damage caused by hail. Losses from fire or lightning are excluded unless the specific fire and lightning endorsement is in force. Reason A is not correct. A scorched crop from fire is not covered because the basic form excludes fire perils unless endorsed. Reason B is not correct. No coverage applies when the optional endorsement was not purchased. Reason D is not correct. The basic form contains no coinsurance provision for fire since fire is not a covered peril. Enjoyed this practice test? Tap like, hit subscribe, and share it with a classmate. Got a question we should tweak? Comment below. We read them all. Find full practice exam books in the description or at ExamPrep.School.